right. Well, it's a Sunday, another weekend. Okay, anyway. I'm just reading these chats on what's it called? Steam. Johnny, how's it going? Kingdom. Xurious. Wrath. Patricius. So Velm is Elden Ring based or cringed? I don't know. I haven't played it. Haven't really been looking into it. I saw it had like mediocre ratings on Steam. I'm pretty good, Johnny. You know, I've been watching all this, just the Ukraine stuff going on and on and on and on and on.
How old are you? You're behaving like
God.
ill-mannered children. Please, stop it.
I'm gonna have to mute that for a second if we're kicking around the things. As far as the whole Ukraine thing goes, you know, you're just watching all this stuff. Like, I don't know which of you guys have family or co-workers who are trying to talk to you about Ukraine. You know, you're in one of those situations right now where if you have a friend who's like a big geopolitics nerd, then they can tell you interesting things about the situation that's been brewing in Eastern Europe. If the people trying to talk to you about the whole Ukraine situation aren't like geopolitics nerds, then all they're doing is just telling you what they saw on their Facebook page, right? They're just telling you like, well, you know, this is what the news told me. This is what I saw on TV. They're going to parrot what they saw on TV to you. So someone on on Steam says that, sorry, I'm super thirsty. Someone on Steam says they're in Kiev right now. Oh, okay, it's Varg. Varg says he's in Kiev. Johnny 5K says it's just Antifa attacking bad Ukraine. You mean because of the National Guard of Ukraine posting that video where they're putting lard on their ammo to shoot the yeah. Did you all guys see that? So I quote tweeted it on Twitter if you follow me there. The what's it called? The National Guard of Ukraine, their official verified Twitter account posted a video where they were dipping their bullets into lard, you know, pork lard, of course. And they said they were gonna shoot the orcs, as in some of the invaders are of, well, they're Muslims, right? So they're gonna shoot these Muslim forces coming over as part of the Russian offensive with these pork-coated bullets. And yeah, that was it's interesting. And you know, one of the things I wanted to say about that whole situation is like, that seems like if the thing was different, if it wasn't pork and Muslims, right? If it was instead like, oh, these Ukrainian forces are dipping their bullets into holy water. It's this anti-white supremacy holy water, anti-European holy water, you know, especially made to destroy those with blonde hair and blue eyes. Then like accounts like Twitter accounts and Facebook accounts like Occupy Democrats would run around and being like, yeah, go. So one of the points I wanted to make was that, like, in conflict like this, people imagine themselves to be qualitatively different than their enemies, and it's really not. That's really not the case. Patricia says, all bullet factories use pig fat very standardly to fit bullets into the casing. So technically all bullets are haram. I don't know if that's true. Might be true, but I don't know about that. Varg said that there's air raid sirens in Kiev 20 minutes ago. So, well, Varg, if you're in Kiev, how worried are your neighbors? Right? Your neighbors. What do they think about what's happening? Patricia says he believes pig fat is the cheapest. Well, I don't know if they need to actually use any grease in doing that. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we could go on Has 4, but if we're doing on-site refining, I'm going driller.
Step aside, wimps. Oh yeah. Suit up. Let's roll.
Drop sequence initiating. Fasten your seatbelts.
Kingdom says, I don't think either side's civilian population wants war. It's only the leaders that do, which is common for war in general, right? I would say, in general, most wars aren't fought because the civilians demand war. It's because the leaders demand war, right? Like, civilians are generally the ones who pay the price to a large degree. Now, someone will point out, historically in the United States, and this is a good point, that leaders and the ruling elite participated more actively in war. I mean, you can just think about George Washington, of course. I mean, he fought in the Revolution before he became president.
We've set our targets on several deep wells of liquid morkite.
Spitballer.
We're sending in a refinery for you to fill. Set the whole thing up, get it cranking, and let's pump those.
Did
deposits
both these
dry.
guys just die immediately? Did both my teammates just die? I think we might need to do a warm-up match before I bring you guys into Has 4. A warm-up match. Oh, okay. That's fine. I was trying to read chat. Okay, so who suffers for more? Keep moving and shoot down those spitballers. Try to win. Oh, I'm up. So, what was it? Someone had brought up the stats. I was charging up for that, and you ran right in. Someone brought up the stats. Oh, we're not going to do that yet. We got to get Nitra. Get Nitra. Get Nitra. So if you look back at like Ivy League representation in the armed forces, like what percentage of the armed forces, people who fight in wars, are Harvard graduates and Ivy League graduates, right?
Pump jack inbound.
In like World War I and World War II, Ivy League graduates, Harvard graduates, these people were overrepresented, right? It was more common to see them join the armed forces and to fight for the country than it was to see the general public do it. That being said, I don't think that's still the case. Where the hell are you? Oh, you died up there? At least try and die in a good spot, people. Oh, goodness. You know? Oh, man. There is a cave leech. You think I can get this? This might be a waste. Oh, maybe I can get this. I gotta look though. Oh, it's more connected than I thought. Then I'll get this piece. And then this. And then this. What? Is this still connected somewhere? Now, Kingdom says he wonders how long this war will last. And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Oh my god. Okay. Well, this was a waste. I didn't get any of it done, really. Wasted all my ammo. Didn't get him down. Oh, there's a cave leech over here, too? Okay. So, how long will the war last? That's the big question. It seems fairly clear that the West, NATO, wants to be involved in the war, right?
That will teach you.
And there's resistance to that, right? A lot of the public isn't a big fan of that idea. And I feel like you see, right now, you see, what's it called? Sweden and Germany and whatever.
Explosives, blights.
They're talking about, okay, they're gonna supply, you know, what's it called? Helmets and stuff, rations, ammunition to the Ukrainians. And I think a big part of that is to try and extend the war, right? Because you need a certain amount of time for the Western propaganda machine to work, right? So they want to propagandize their public into supporting the war. But they need time. They need time to try and convince Americans to support the war. They need, potentially, some people to take action, right? They might need a false flag or something to happen. I'm not saying anything is going to happen, but they might need to wait for something like that to happen so they can finally use that as the impetus to go to war. So they got to delay, right? I think Western powers want to delay the war. They want to extend the war because it provides more opportunity for them to enter the war eventually.
Praetorians are heading your way. Better prepare yourself.
This never gets old.
So I think if the war is up to Russia, if the war goes Russia's way, it ends as soon as possible.
It'll be a beauty once
Likely with like the least amount of theoretical human cost.
Praetorians engaging. Let them have it.
But if the war goes the West way, it'll be dragged out and dragged out and dragged out till eventually they can get the support to enter. And then, you know, then it'll go faster maybe. But they got to delay until then. So Johnny 5K says Russian actions is increasing support for NATO. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like no one is seeing Russian action. What we're all seeing is the media's portrayal of Russian action. right? And this is not me saying, oh, well, Russia's doing good things. This is just me admitting that, like, everything is so heavily manipulated and propagandized that there's no meaningful way for us to even really know what's happening.
Good news, team. The wave is thinning out. Roger that. Supplies are coming.
Pipe framework set.
So Mr. Gladius says no direct involvements will be made. Many economic bans will be made, and we're gonna pay for it. Well, certainly at first it's gonna be economic, right? You know, and then it's gonna be like, well, we tried X and we tried Y and we tried Z, and you know, no, they just wouldn't listen to reason. You know, the bad guys were just extra bad and evil, and they did all their things, and now I guess us good guys are just gonna have to invade, right? We're gonna have to drop our BLM, you know, nukes or bombs and all that stuff. You know, this war brought to you by Amazon.
I'll be dreaming of pipes.
Alright, where's this last pump jack? Or... okay, here it is.
Need a pump jack here.
Pump jack launched. Stay clear from the impact zone.
Pump jack's here. Let's get it hooked up to the refinery.
So, Kingdom says he's seen hypothetical sensors of modern war. I'm not sure what he's saying here. Okay, and through here, I guess. Yeah. Oh. No, okay. What? Oh, one of these other guys took the pipe. They're taking it the long way? Oh, the very long way. I made a hole, but they're just gonna go that way. That's fine, whatever. I don't care.
More ammo. Yeah.
Now, Johnny says...
I think we actually
I
have a
can't...
chance to make it
He
out
says,
alive.
I can't say it would be good to join NATO or not. You mean for Ukraine? I mean, I would prefer if Ukraine was just more of a neutral buffer zone before NATO and Russia, but NATO doesn't... well, they haven't pushed hard to make Ukraine part, although they've suggested it, and they've, you know, refused to ever, like, say, like, oh, we definitely won't. Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's unfortunate that the world is becoming sort of, I mean, it's like Risk, right? You've all played Risk.
I feel like a
You're part of the Russian power, you're
I
part of the
just
NATO,
feel big,
United States
bushy
power.
mustache.
I mean, they're just sort of gobbling everything up. It's gonna be War of the Worlds, increasingly.
Vicious.
And I think this sort of pressure you're seeing on Russia is really gonna help motivate them
You just need to set up one more
to
and then we can start the extraction sequence.
try and improve their alliance with China, right? So it's likely that on some level we're gonna see a lot more Russia, China, what's it called? You know, cooperation moving forward. And depending on Like, so everyone's talking about, like, oh, well, we'll be able to crush Russia's economy and this and that. Well, I guess depending on how bad Russia gets hurt by this whole thing will depend on exactly what their relationship with China is like. The healthier Russia is, the more Russia is a partner in the China relationship that could potentially contest China for some amount of power. They're, like, China can't just decide things unilaterally. The worst position Russia is in when trying to make an alliance with China, the more Russia is like a subordinate power to the stronger Chinese power, right?
Be warned, the noise will draw in the locals, so stay
So do you want
do what you can to protect
an
and
alliance
maintain
between
the
two forces who might quarrel internally, or do you want one completely subordinate to the other? I mean,
Keep on fighting. More bugs coming your way.
now maybe someone will say, well, not so simple. Maybe, you know, there are certain factors that could lead these groups not to want to create alliances, or they have some different goals in some level. And that's true, but, you know, it's like, you can only push so far before they'll have to form an alliance just for their own survival, right? If NATO continues to, if NATO, oh goodness, is going to gobble up the entire world, then on some level, everyone who's not NATO will form an alliance, right?
But there are more outstanding issues.
It's not like they have much of a choice. So Patricia said, oh no, okay. Patricia said, it's certainly bad for Ukraine to just apply for NATO, then to let it air until Russia finds U.S. weak enough to stop it. Yeah, you're suggesting that it would have been better, you're suggesting, to just outright refuse Ukraine or to accept Ukraine into NATO and not just leave them in limbo. I mean, true, unless your goal is to create war, right? If your goal is to create war between NATO and Russia, then this might be the appropriate move. All right? So if you're like a war hawk in Washington, like we know a lot of them are, maybe it's gone well. Alright, I'm gonna pick up a resupply.
Pipelines in need of maintenance. Pipeline repaired, but other pipelines are still malfunctioning. This pipeline is fixed, but you need to clear all malfunctions in order for the refinery to run.
Alright, is it good over here? Okay, we're good.
Extraction is back up and running. Let's hope it stays that way.
Yeah, so Johnny, you know, in Finland, similar situation to Russia, because, or similar situation to Ukraine, just because it is, like, it's a border state, right? It's a border government. It's like, Russia doesn't want NATO to come all the way up to its borders. NATO, for decades now, has promised that they weren't going to expand all the way to Russia's borders. And now they're in talks with, and there's public support and talk about and consideration for taking countries that are against Russia's border and adding them to NATO, like Finland, which is something we already did to Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, you know, right there on Russia's border.
Hit the return button on the refinery to send the goods to orbit. We'll send in the drop pod to get you out.
So none of you guys found some Ebo nuts here? I see one here. What's up here?
Hey, listen!
Hey, Piers, thanks for the lemon. Appreciate it. Patricia says, German government made relations with Russia worse. Oh, yeah, I forgot about this. We won't do this. They literally insulted the Russians in a recent state visit. Oh, really? Yeah, I mean... At the end of the day, you know, an insult here or there, I think, you know, it's bad, but it's like indicative of the more major things that are happening. I guess we'll just ignore the Evo nuts. I'll get this guy up and we'll leave. Ow. How did he hit me? He's not even facing me. Get the heck out of here. Okay, Varg says, U.S. and Russia promised to respect and protect Ukrainian borders after Ukraine gave up nukes, right? So yeah, that's the Budapest Agreement. So you got to keep in mind though, like there's like a hierarchy of agreements, right? What are you guys doing? Stop dying. Like, the Budapest Agreement wasn't a binding treaty, as it were, compared to other things, right? I mean, where the heck is this? Okay. Well, and especially, you know, this is, in my mind, one of the more, if you make an agreement with an autocrat, right? If you make an agreement with Putin, Putin's been in power for however long, and he's gonna stay in power more or less, we're expecting. Oh shit. I better not die here. So, like, if you make an agreement with a king, as long as the king lives, that's a thing, right? There's some, like, integrity of the king tied to his name, and all that. I don't know how, if he's gonna be able to figure out. No, he's not going to be able to figure it out. He just walked past it. Okay, no, he's dead. And now I'm about to die. And I'm in.
Good work. We're pulling you back in.
If you make an agreement with someone who's going to be ruling a country, as, let's say, a king, for decades, that's probably a more stable agreement than when you make an agreement with a, like, Western democracy where the person can be changed all the time. In fact, a person might be elected because they speak out against the agreement as an illegitimate agreement. Then, you know, this is not just, like, obviously, you're talking about the Budapest Agreement, and Russia has invaded, right? So breaks the agreement, but at the end of the day, it's really, you have the expansion of power of NATO and you have the Russian sort of position. Like, this is about these large powers, right? And it's not about respecting sovereignty of individual countries. I mean, like, that's all cute stuff you can do maybe within NATO or within, like, a political alliance, but between political alliances and the sort of the vacuum in between them, so to speak, I mean, it's a no-go. So Piers says, Germany needs Russian energy and is being forced by the USA to act against its own self-interest. Well, and it's a rough situation for them because they've been very, and like you can tell me if there's any American involvement in this, but Germany has been very, very stupidly shutting down all their nuclear plants over the last few years, right? I mean, they have, so you say Germany needs Russian energy. Well, Germany needs Russian energy more today than they did 10 years ago. And that's due to internal action within Germany. So they've made themselves more dependent. All right, let's take a look here.
Yes.
I got a script.
Another script. I choose you.
Well, we all have different ones now, huh? Well, I'm not doing either of yours. I'm doing mine. You can do this. What did we got for beer? Yeah, we can do this.
My back hasn't acted up in a while. Around the backbreaker stout to celebrate. Cheers, Mike!
So, in the chat between Patricius and Varg, they're talking about the geopolitical situation in terms of Russia viewing NATO expanding into Ukraine as sort of like a threat, right? This sort of like NATO pushing up to their borders on all sides, and Varg saying, "Well, listen, Estonia's already in NATO, and if you were to take NATO weapons and put them in Estonia, they would be the same distance to Moscow as in Ukraine." That may be true, but you still don't want to be surrounded on all sides. Like, it's easier to defend against an attack coming from one direction, right? If the closest point to Moscow that NATO had stuff was Estonia, and it was like everything else was far away, then like there's sort of a directionality to the attack, and you can establish something more like a front line rather than just being surrounded on all sides, right?
This time we're after an Omeran Heartstone.
No one wants to be surrounded on all sides.
We're sending in an autonomous drill dozer
And that's
to support you.
what's happening
The
to some
drill
degree
dozer will
with
automatically home in on
Russia.
the Heartstone, so your job will be to escort it and keep it running. Good luck, miners.
Varg says there's no chance that NATO would ever accept Ukraine anyway. I don't know about that. They certainly haven't yet. Depending on how things go with this war, they'll probably be more interested. You know, like, if, for example, this war leads to an annexation of eastern parts of Ukraine into Russia, right? If that were to happen, then I could definitely see the western part, which is more pro-Western and more pro-NATO, being more likely to join than ever in the past, right? Would you agree with that?
Donkey, come here.
Yeah. So you guys are in the chat. You guys are agreeing with me in terms of the denuclearization of Germany's power system as being sort of a crazy mistake. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's absolutely insane. I can't. It's hard to believe that a country. Well, I mean, it's not that hard. A country of fairly intelligent people do really stupid things a surprising amount of the time. So Gal says Putin wasted his opportunity to be cultural and social counterbalance to the West with this unjust aggression, directly causing the brother war. Ooh, let me get rid of that warden. Okay. This is a small little thing here. Okay, well, at the end of the day, I don't think Putin is interested in, like, trying to be the global cultural fix to Western rot, right? He's not in it for the world, he's in it for Russia. Okay. And this is where we're gonna set up to get fuel.
The drill dozer is out of fuel. You need to refill the fuel canisters mounted on its back. Use the canisters to extract any nearby oil shale.
Now,
we'll have the drill dozer operational again in no time.
The unjust aggression, right? So your accusation that his aggression is wholly unjust. I mean, I'm not saying that it is just. I'm just saying, are you sure it's unjust? Like, are you sure? Or even if you think it's unjust, do you find it understandable? Have you considered all the elements to this beyond what you've seen on TV? Piers said NATO accepted Turkey, so they'll take anyone if they consider it useful. Well, that was a long time ago, though. Turkey was shortly after NATO formed. I mean, things can always change since then. Varg says Putin has lost his mind. Okay. All right. Varg says this is more unjust than every U.S. intervention in the last 50 years.
Canister fueled and ready. Fuel canister loaded back into the dozer.
Let's see here. So Johnny 5K says Russia has shown it can't be trusted here or anywhere. I mean, can you trust NATO? Can you trust the United States? Who are we trusting on a political level? If you're trusting any major power to do something, hopefully what you're expecting is that they will work to what they consider their own self-interest, right? Because if you trust them to do anything else, you'll always be disappointed, right?
Fuel canister in place.
Kingdom of Vinland, talking about USS Liberty. Nothing came from that. Would have been more justified than Vietnam. Yeah, well, I'm reminded of... let me see if I'm gonna... You're not gonna see. I'm gonna be tabbed out. Getting Americans to war. Getting Americans to war. Oh, man. What's that clip? There's a guy...
Ready to blow.
I want to find that clip of that guy in Washington talking about the difficulty with getting Americans to war. And he's talking about trying to get Americans to war with Iran and how hard it is. Like, and he mentions that it really helps to get other people into the war first and then to pull America in after, because Americans don't like going to war, right? So, and one of the things you may have seen on the news, Varg, is, and I think this is accurate. I don't think you can really believe most of what you read on the news, but I think they were accurate in this part. They said something to the effect of the CIA appeared to have a much better picture of this invasion than continental intelligence, meaning like the United States knew this was going to happen to a much better degree than Germany or Norway or the UK, right? And when you have the people in charge of the United States who want to go to war with Russia or some other force, and our strategy to getting to war and to finding popular support for war is to first get other people to war so we can come in after, it's something to think about, right?
Supply pod requisitioned. Launching now.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm suggesting there?
Right now. Don't die. Resupply arrived. Go restock.
Okay, good. We got enough nitro. Let's just start this thing.
Hang in there. Supplies are on the way.
Hope the bandage stays on.
Oh, oh. Someone messed with a spitter? Spitballer? Okay. I got the Spitballer.
Sentry done. Go get him, boy. Grabbing ammo.
Mr. Gladius says, in defense of Germany, I say it's hard doing intelligent things when you have a gun pointed to the head. Well, weren't we talking about the nuclear thing? I mean, is someone holding a gun to their head about getting, like, denuclearizing their power grid?
Take the pickaxe. Born ready. Heartstone.
Drill dozer has begun cracking the Omeran shell. If you lose the dozer, you lose the mission. So guard it well against...
I don't know, so for you guys, did any of you guys watch that Sean Last video and Radical Lib video? I mean, if you're actually interested in the geopolitics between NATO and Russia and between, well, that would be the Rad Lib video, and then if you're interested in Russia and Ukraine, then you'd go look at the Sean Last video. Okay, I think I should actually pick this up now. Varg didn't like Sean Last's video in regards to 2014. Did you comment on his video then?
The dozer's just broken through the crust of the Omeran.
I'll repair this. Gal says Ukraine is a contested area. CIA keeping tabs on them is logical. Suspicious, but logical. Right. But the point is, like, every major country in the world is keeping tabs on everyone, right? I mean, this is just the way it is. The point is that... The point that I was making was that America had a better picture of what was about to happen than anyone else. And if you think, for example, that America should come in, well, then they actually probably knew more about it than you and then chose not to. So are you sure you want them to come in? I mean, like, do they have your best interests at heart, like you might be suspecting? I mean, when it comes... Whoop, 1 second. Oh, let's get rid of this. Get rid of this. Pick you up. By the way, we can let a couple of these... in the next phase, we could let a couple of these... sections of Doretta just break. It's not that big of a deal. Who's dying? Stop that dying.
The drill dozer is exposing the core. The heartstone is almost...
Alright, I'm gonna drill these. Oh, you got that one. Just let that piece break. Not that you guys can hear me. Because of the delay. See, that broke, but now it's sort of invincible for a second.
Off it. That's an order. Swarm detected. Keep the drill
These guys are
dozer
getting really
operational.
messed up by the web spitters. They're not shooting the web spitters. Not prioritizing the web spitters, rather. I'm gonna let this other section break, too. Make sure you refill the ammo on your, what's it called? Refill the ammo on your sentry gun if you have it. Okay, let's get rid of this Tri-Jaw, get rid of these. Repair this. Okay. Uh-oh. Now I'm the one getting hit by the web spitter. Okay. Alright. Well, we got that. You don't have to repair it. Let's get the hell out of here.
We gotta fix
The drill dozer served its purpose. The heartstone is ours. Deposit it and wrap up the mission.
red sugar.
Nicely done. Armor and heartstone secured. Call the drop pod when you're ready.
Molly.
We're sending in the drop pod. Head for LZ.
Well... the thing about this conversation is it changes a lot once you've got someone personally invested in it, Varg.
Retrieving the mule. Drop pod departing in
What do you think,
5 minutes.
if no one from the outside got involved in this conflict, Varg, what would you imagine the result of the conflict would be?
That's all you got, just slippery shit.
Be ready to oh well. Oh, I'm out of ammo on that. Shield us. Oh, there we go.
One sentry gun ready to be filled.
Drop pod departing
Let's get in this thing. Oh god.
Not getting any younger, the most.
The mule has docked. Initiating launch sequence. Retrieving escape pod.
Well, another has 4-1 successfully completed. I'm only slightly surprised. Only slightly. Gal says, Couch Red Pill on Keith's stream said this is the best blitzkrieg in modern times, or something to that effect. Huh. My windows are messed up slightly. Okay. And this is a question for everyone, I guess, to think about. If there was zero intervention into the Ukraine-Russia conflict, what would be the result of the conflict? How would it work out? What I mean, Varg, is that there may be, like, no transfer of equipment or assistance of any kind from the outside once the conflict breaks out, right? So if there's been some assistance or whatever beforehand, right, we can just grant that. But if no one intervenes... Okay, we're gonna do this on Hazard 3. Because I don't do elimination on Hazard 4 like this. Well, I mean, Sweden, you know, Germany's talked about moving some things over there. Thousands of pieces of equipment. So I think Sweden said thousands of pieces of equipment, hundreds of thousands of rations. So Piers and Johnny 5K both say basically Russian victory. Now, whether that means Russia taking over the whole country or not, I don't know. But, like, what's, like... So, let's see here.
I really don't want to die down here.
Stop your whining. You're making my ears.
John says... Ukraine would lose in the long run with much resistance, with no help from anyone. Okay. I'm interested. So for those of you who are saying saying Russian victory, right? You're saying, okay, Ukraine, Russia, no one gets involved. They just do their thing together. You're saying Russian victory, quickly, slowly, complete victory. What? That's what I'm interested in hearing, you know, like, not just the ultimate result, but, like, what's the human result? How many people die? How many are, you know, like, you don't have to give a number, but, like, lots, few, the war goes quickly. Is this... Oh, I forgot that this all turns into crap. I should not be running down through this. Okay. Varg says, we don't know the numbers, every side lies. Yeah, they do. Hey, what happened to you, Ando? What are you guys doing up here?
I owe you one, brother.
Uh-oh, missed the web spitter. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
We've got company.
Varg says... Okay, so John... Okay. So Gladius says, zero intervention means Russia wins. They literally got triple the soldiers' number. Varg says Russia has 10 times the yearly military budget, and that's after Ukraine upped their military spending. Victory, Johnny says victory, but probably resistance fighting who knows how long. Well, and I think this also depends on what Russia tries to do, right? I mean, do you think that Russia's going to try and take and hold all of the Ukraine, or do you think Russia's going to try and take and hold part of eastern Ukraine where they have a lot of supports and a lot of ethnic Russians, right? Because I think those two are super different. Okay, I see neither of you guys are in the starting room, huh? That's a bummer. I don't know where you guys are fighting. Let me look on the map. Oh, here's one of you. That's good. KNAT's nowhere near us. That's unfortunate. We got one of the bosses, though. Oh! We had one of the bosses for a second. Oh no. Varg says Russia has no good outcomes after this, even if they took Kiev in 48 hours. Okay, they're gonna heal each other. Oh, really? They're not healing yet? Okay. Woo! I got a couple axes in there. Oh my god. Took a little bit more damage there than I thought. John Doe says Russia wants all of it. There's some leaked article that was prepared for the end of the operation that basically proclaims revival of a neo-USSR. Okay. So, I mean, are most of you of that opinion? That what they're trying to achieve here is complete control over Ukraine? Because in that case, I think that if that's what Russia goes for, then I think the human cost will always be pretty high, right?
And stay down, you freak.
Okay, now maybe go this way. Oh my god. Kingdom of Vinland says just like the Simpsons predicted in terms of a neo-Soviet Union. True. That would be a Simpsons prediction. Okay, let's see. Stay in main room. I'm gonna bring this over to us as well.
Never felt better.
Oh my god. A lot of crap here, huh? Yeesh. Okay. Oh yeah. Oh! I broke it. Up! I gotta get past this. Up! 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 Up!
Never felt better.
That's okay, you're out of ammo. We have nitra.
Warden down. Now kill the rest of
Where? Okay. I'm calling nitra in the main room where I asked you guys to stay and you're not here.
I ordered a resupply.
Okay.
Nitro's been
You're both
withdrawn.
here now.
Supply
We're all
pod
good.
is inbound.
Second hat says, oh, hey, look who's here. Oh god, I'm getting away. Okay, while he's running, I'm gonna pick up this. And then I'll do this to this guy. Oh, damn. You can definitely pick me up from within that shield. You definitely didn't have to blow your fast thing, though. Could have just given me the normal revive there. Oh, I overheated. John Doe says even Kosovo wants in NATO. Well, I mean... a lot of people want in NATO, right? See if I can freeze him again. Oh. Oh. Just as he went invulnerable. And a little bit of dodging. Oh, I ran out of pressure from my tank. Okay, let's actually... So if you look at that lower right... Okay, now the pressure's full. I had to wait for the pressure to fill up and ran out of juice. I'll be able to freeze him and then we can burst him down during this last freeze. Maybe. What? That reset the cold? Or whatever? Eh. Oh, I thought maybe I could poke him. Kingdom of Vinland says he wants Texas to secede. I don't think it'll happen. How is he not dead? He has 1 health. Here, let me do it. Oh my god, we waited so long. He didn't die. Oh my god. Uh-oh. I was not expecting you guys to not finish him off when he had that sliver.
Shield placed.
Uh-oh. Okay, come on. Just finish him off, please. Oh, God. Jeez.
Immediate dreadnought threat eliminated. Activate the transponder on the mule. We'll
all right.
send in an extraction
Pick up some health if you want it. I'm just pressing the button here.
pod inbound. Stand clear.
I know the way. Deep Rock seriously needs
I should have called Molly sooner so she'd be closer to here by now.
Drop pod departing in T-minus 5 minutes.
Well, yeah, I think China is definitely watching to see how the Ukraine situation happens, so they can see how the international community is reacting to the various things being said and done. That being said, dealing with an island is much different and more difficult than just like a piece of land right next to you, you know what I mean? I mean, China and Taiwan don't share a border in the same way as Russia and Ukraine. They share a shared body of water. So, I mean, my interpretation of the situation is Just, you know, this is my guess as to what's happening here. And I fully admit it's a very big guess, because I don't believe half the stuff that people tell me, you know? I don't believe nearly any of this stuff on television. I don't believe nearly any of this stuff on Twitter. My interpretation is that NATO wants to be involved in a conflict with Russia over Ukraine. NATO doesn't feel like it can get popular support for a war. You know, United States, Germany doesn't feel like it can get popular support for a war, and there's no legal precedent to join the war. It's not like any NATO country has actually been attacked. But they want it, right? They want war. KNet doesn't like the magma core. So they want war, but they don't feel like they can get involved just yet. And when you see Sweden and Germany talking about sending equipment to fight the war, sending rations, and all this stuff, that's a way to potentially extend the war until they can get involved, until they've successfully propagandized the people and they can get involved. And also, well, NATO is... So Russia is one of NATO's biggest sort of adversaries, isn't it, Varg? Don't you think? I mean, other than China, who is opposed to NATO in the world? Who is NATO's enemy? Who is their opponent? Who are they fighting with for control and dominance, other than China? Besides Russia. You know, it's just Russia and China, for the most part. I mean, it's not North Korea. Not really. And, you know, when I see, like, you'll see the news stories, and I'm not sure how much of it is true. So, Varg, this is what I want to hear from you. You know, on the news stories in the West, we're seeing, like, oh my gosh, you know, they're handing out tens of thousands of rifles to men, women, and children to defend Ukraine, right? Like, you know, there's 13-year-old boys carrying a rifle to defend Ukraine. Is that happening around you? Johnny says, why can't NATO and Russia just leave us alone? Well, that's the name of the game, right? It's like Risk, world domination. Why can't you be left alone? Well, let me explain the ways, the reasons. So Varg says not women and children. Well, how old are they given for the guns? Because what we're hearing is like a unified defense, right? Oh god, you guys got terrible ones. Let's see what the beer is. Yeah, the beer is good too. I think these guys aren't drinking the beers that I've been buying. So Varg says 18 years old and older, and it's voluntary. Okay, so that's different than the messaging we're getting. Right? So what's important is that the West, United States, UK, is pushing messaging that your children are dying in this war, that Ukrainian children are having to pick up arms to defend their home from the evil Russian, right? That's what's happening in our media. Do you think that our media and our elites maybe want to make this look as bad as possible? Like your women and children are dying? Does that sound to you like NATO wants to come to your war?
Here we go!
Because it does to me.
Take it out! The smell, it lingers.
You've detected an area filled with the quarks, and you get to bring
I
them
hear
all
a,
back. Search for a
there it is.
shimmering light and extract the quark from within the walls.
A terror grabber.
You sent in a specialized
Oh,
heavy
God.
lifter, and we're expecting heavy resistance.
He put down a
from
shield.
equipment equipped with heavy armaments, but keep focused. It's about the goods.
So I don't like, oh god. So Varg says that portraying Russians as coming in and killing Ukrainian women and children makes Ukraine look bad. I don't agree. Especially when you keep in mind that what is the currency in the West, right? In NATO countries, in the culture, what is the currency? The currency is victimhood, right? So if the best thing you can be in the West is a victim, and they're saying you're victims, they're saying you're the best. Because the victims are who deserve everything, right? The victims are who deserved help. The victims are who deserve appreciation and all that. Oh my god. Okay, what, is there nitro up here? Oh, you got it? Oh. Try and go up here. So Varg says he didn't pay attention to CNN and the likes lately. So I'm not sure what the general message. There's not much information available from any side of the conflict, as I said before. Right. I mean, the messaging we're seeing isn't from the conflict directly. It's heavily filtered. John Doe says, over the last few days, I've seen 2 dead girls, ages 3 and 13, with bullet holes in them. They and their fathers were shot fleeing in their car from some town. Well, and what... So I haven't been paying super close attention, but I know there was one situation where there was a video of, like, a car being cornered by a tank or something, and it turns out it was a Ukrainian tank, misunderstanding, thinking that the car was Russian or something. Do you know what I'm talking about? Did you all see that? Like, it was being presented as it was a Russian tank, but it turned out to be a Ukrainian tank.
Swarm, it's a big one, team.
So, Varg, back to the original question. Can you see how the posturing, right? Like, I don't care if you think it's accurate, right? Can you see that the media portraying Ukraine as victims who are having their women and children slaughtered by Russians is about potentially pushing the West into assisting you in the war. I mean, can you see that? Like, can you see how it builds the narrative of popular support for helping you? Give you guys a resupply and try and take out a couple more of these. Oh man, Fester, please.
Objective completed. Launch controls are active and awaiting your input. Let's bring it home, team.
Flee. The mission boy is here.
Think, we almost killed you. Ready to kill some more crates.
How are we? Okay, yeah, let's just do this and press the button.
Supply pod launched. Better stand back.
Kill fleas. I'm sending this. No, we don't need nitro. Just fleas.
Minehead returning. Escape can inbound. Expect heavy resistance until we can pick you up.
Everyone connect ammunition.
Secondary objective has been achieved. Bonus
Nice,
will
we
be
got it.
transferred to your accounts on mission completion.
So Varg says he sees it. Okay. So he sees... Uh-oh. Whoops. That NATO wants to be involved in this conflict. Right? The West, NATO, wants to fight Russia. NATO wants to see Ukraine not become part of a Russian sort of going back to Risk, right? The game of world domination. They don't want to see Ukraine being part of the Russian force. They want to see it part of their own. Although they've been hesitant about the whole thing. I think as far as I understand, part of the Ukraine hesitancy to add to NATO has been Germany. Germany not wanting to provoke the Russians. But this may be what's needed to get them over that, right? And to want to, you know, get them in. But keep in mind, I mean, if you become part of NATO, you do have to become whatever NATO wants you to become, right? Like you're on the hook.
Drop pod en route. Hang in there.
And I don't just mean for military funding.
With me. This way. Lord damn these.
Okay. I gotta let this overheat.
Drop pod has arrived. Clock is ticking. All up to you, team. Drop pod departing in T-minus 3 minutes.
And look at that. We're in.
The rest of you, please hurry.
Varg says before 2008 it looked like Russia was actually going to join NATO. I don't know
Action commencing.
if
Good
it
work.
ever really looked like that. I don't necessarily believe that it ever looked like that.
Rock on.
I know some people have said things like that, but I don't necessarily believe it. I mean, so when you say it looked like it was going to join NATO, I mean, how serious did the talks get, right? Did we get to the point where Russia was told, like, okay, change these couple things and then you can join, right? Was just a matter of getting a few things done, or are we talking about, like, well, some pundits, you know, made some statements about it being possible.
One more mission, and the assignment is done.
Fantastic.
Oh, man. Which one is this?
I wanted
Give
this
me
set
and my team some of that sweet rock.
Oh, both their missions are in Magma Core, which they don't want to go back to. So, we'll go to this one. Even though the beer is
Mission
useless in this
selection
one.
Powering up the drop pod. Get on board, team.
Yeah! Come on, you lazy bastards.
Drop sequence initiating.
I think the conflict between the West and Russia goes back to
Rock and roll!
Soviet Russia, right? Mr. Gladius said even Switzerland sided against Russia. What's going on? You mean just recently? I mean, we've seen a really unified front from sort of the media on this whole thing. I mean, you have Saturday Night Live supporting Ukraine. You have basically every outlet, you know, all over the United States today. All over the United States today.
Okay, team. You've signed
Churches talked about Ukraine, right?
Target is an
It's Sunday morning.
stone, and your job is to protect and maintain.
I mean, you can do what you want,
as it makes
George.
its way there. Get ready.
But it's Sunday morning,
Stand clear of the landing
and
zone, team.
churches all
Troops
over
are
talked
coming
about
in.
standing with Ukraine today. Saturday Night Live talked about standing with Ukraine. Every late night comedian talked about standing with Ukraine. I mean, Switzerland, for all its neutrality in the past, at the end of the day, is very much a part of the West and is a part of the sort of cultural milieu that we see in the United States, Canada, and everywhere else, right? What we might call, on some level, pause, right? It's just... It's like a package deal. You know, the LBGT thing. This and that and this and that. I mean, this is part of the reason why Russia's not liked. And again, you might have other complaints about Russia. And those complaints might even be good complaints. But you have to understand that part of the reason why NATO countries don't like Russia is because Russia's not gay. I mean...
Where is it?
Oh god. These are swarmer tunnels, by the way. Or did you already do it? No, you didn't do it.
platform. Wally is on the way.
Well... Oh my god.
I got the deposit.
Why did you call it up there on the wall?
Good mule, Molly.
Okay, let's get this going. This has got to move a lot through the room anyway.
Drill does a
It's
moving.
facing the wrong way.
Everything looks fine, but expect that to change soon.
Dorita's our pride.
So it's kind of flying right now. Doretta will do crazy things. As far as the difference culturally between Russia and the United States and the West, right?
Rock and roll.
It's... You guys are correct to point out that Russia is not based. Russia is not based and red-pilled. Russia is not what I want to see the world become, or whatever, right? You're right. But they're not fully endorsing the kind of things that NATO countries want you to endorse culturally. But again, I don't think this war and the conflict between NATO and Russia, or the West and Russia, or whatever, this conflict, I think, is more geopolitical than it is, you know, cultural. I don't think they're like, well, we know like Russia because, you know, Russia is not doing this culturally, but that is part of the that's part of the propaganda. That's how the propaganda works at home, right? Like, oh my god, it's one of these guys. So the reason the people in charge of the United States conflict with Russia has nothing to do with, has not much to do or at all with, like, anyone's stance on LGBT issues, right? That's not it. But they might say things like that on Saturday Night Live to make the population feel a certain way. You understand what I'm saying? Like, when it comes to pushing a war, they'll say, well, Russia's mean to transsexuals, right? Which is part of the reason why we need to go to war to save them.
The drill dozer has stopped. Fuel canisters are all dry as a bone. Refill them, and we will have this show on the road.
I mean, in general, I'd say Russia's not based and red-pilled or whatever you want to say. Johnny 5K says NATO, well, maybe NATO just saw their time to come and put their propaganda machine to full at the moment, and it's working. I mean, obviously the propaganda machine is at full. I mean, it is absolutely insane to see it all working so significantly efficiently, to see the narratives being spun in real time about the ghost of Kiev and all this other stuff. Oh!
Prospector is taking our job.
I mean, in the West, I mean, it's a very sort of an obvious thing to immediately see who's hailed as a hero, right? You immediately see stories of heroic people, right, when the war broke out. And which side is the heroic side? And a lot of those stories weren't even true.
The drill dozer is taking permanent damage. The drill dozer is under attack.
Alright, this is going not great here, guys. Are you guys allergic to playing Scout? I'm just wondering. No offense. Mr. Gladius says, the more... Why are you all dead at the same time? Okay. Okay, let's take a look here. Let's heal that slightly. Throw that. Oh, what? I didn't expect to die there.
Get to work. There's sparks all over the dozer.
So Gladius says, the more times it passes, the more I understand that I have been brought to life in a madhouse.
The hull of the drill dozer
Oh,
permanent damage. Remember, it's game over if
jeez,
it's destroyed,
guys.
so step to it.
We gotta protect the red eye.
To be virtuous among degenerates is like a torture like no other. Yeah.
This is the drill dozer. It's drill. The red eye is purring like a kid. Shield charge.
I don't even know what you guys are doing. You didn't even put any gas in the cans.
Lock and loaded.
Get ready for a bunch of ads from the boss.
Explosives, boys. Annoying little fuckers.
Okay, Prospector on its last stage. Just kill it.
Buzz off, Shredder!
Okay, thank God.
Mining done right is mining done.
The fuel canister will only work on oil shale canister.
Take out that brute
The dozer goes through oil shale like a grunt chicken gun. Ready?
I mean, it is interesting how... I mean, something that I've come more and more to the conclusion over the years is, like, everyone has their religion, everyone has their dogma. I think religion, dogma, these are, like, fundamental parts of the human experience. There's, like, no such thing as a human society without them. And on some level, it's like the health of your society, whether your society is a healthy society or a non-healthy society, whether you're having children and families, or whether you're dancing in parades, you know, celebrating dead babies, right? Is almost entirely in whether you just select the healthy dogmas or not, right? There are healthy dogmas and unhealthy ones. If you get the good ones, you get a good society, and if you get the bad ones, you get a bad society. Like, and for the people who imagine no dogmas, right? It's just that their dogmas are so deeply believed that they can't even tell what they are, right?
Fuel for the drill dozer here.
They're so dogmatic, they can't tell what their dogmas are.
canister ready for refuel.
Where is that damn mule?
Okay.
Canister in.
Try not to die.
Just one more.
All canisters fueled. Drill dozers ready to make more progress. Here we go. Drill dozer setting off.
John Doe says, weeks ago, all I wanted is to play Elden Ring. What do you want now? A break from reality? What is that? Oh, that's you. That's what you marked. Isn't it?
Swarm on intercept course. Get ready to protect the drill dozer.
Maybe? What is that? Or is there a crate up there that I missed? Oh god. Get rid of the Spitballer, because they're really awful to deal with. I whiffed it. I'll repair this. Gal says, speaking of Elden Ring, oh god, fire fade. Civilizations will eventually run out of juice. I'm dead right next to you guys, you goofballs. Oh my god.
Roger that. Supplying
They don't even notice. They're so focused on looking off the back of the truck that they can't look around to see that I'm dead right next to them. Look at this.
Get back here, you bastard! Come and
All right. Finally. That only took 40, 50 seconds.
The drill dozer has reached.
All right. How much nitro do we have?
Press the button on the dozer and
Okay.
start the extraction when you're
Someone
ready.
called a resupply right over there. Okay.
Face the pickaxe!
We need some more nitro.
Come here!
Okay, look for nitro. Let's see here. So Gal says, oh no, Mr. Gladius says, if Elden Ring turns out to be for our guys, like the game version of Lord of the Rings, I'll buy it. Well, my impression, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, is it's not a super narrative game, is it?
Charging!
Isn't it more just like a gameplay game? Kind of, not exactly the same, but similar to Deep Rock Galactic in a way. Like, this game we're playing, like, there's a setting, and there are certain ideas you could associate with the setting, but to a large degree, there's not a narrative. You just sort of play the game. Like, the Dark Souls games had a story or a narrative, but it wasn't, like, primary, was it? I wouldn't know because I haven't played them, but that was my impression, is that they were really about the combat mechanics.
Shield charged!
One sentry gun ready to be filled.
We need 12 nitro if we can get it.
Supply pod launched. Better stand back.
Move your tin ass over here and hurry, please!
Gal says narrative is for player to pick? I'm not sure what you mean here. Gal says, unfortunate fact, sometimes really make me think about our civilization. Our time is upon us, right? Yeah. Now, KNAT says Dark Souls' story is much more just rich lore, right? So, like, so what you're saying is the setting has details. Yeah. He says you find a cool story in your surroundings, right? So the setting has details. There's stuff you're finding out about the world around you, right? That's a detailed environment, but it's not like a big narrative story, coming-of-age tale or something, you know? It just simply is a setting that's fleshed out to some degree and is interesting. Okay. Go. We're doing it. We're doing it live.
Extraction commencing. Drill dozer running at full steam. Stay alert, team. The noise and vibrations are.
I mean, you can get
attracting
nitro if you see nitro, but unless you get 40, it's not going to do anything, right? Unless you get 40, it's not going to be enough for the next thing. Although I do see a thing here.
Combat positions. The swarm is here.
This isn't nitro, but it is an Enor Pearl. Huh. Life After Death says... Uh-oh. Life After Death says, why is it every time someone posts a comment for how cool the 50s were, someone else has to post how terrible it was for minorities, right? By minorities, we're talking about non-whites, right? So, Well, that's just part of the deal, right? Like, there are things about the past. Oh god. What do I want to say here? Like, a lot of people can recognize that certain elements of the past were healthier. And some people feel that, when that's pointed out, they feel that's inherently threatening to their worldview. Because they really don't like that time, and they want to establish something wholly unlike that, right? So if you say 50's good, you know, it's like you're trying to invalidate their whole worldview on some level, isn't it? And I mean, there is some amount of mythologizing of certain time periods, right? Get out of here, you. Like, certain people will suggest things about the 50s that may not actually have been true at the time. But, I mean, I'm no, obviously, I'm accepting of the idea that some things were certainly better in the past. I know some of you guys have asked me about that stream I want to do, and I still don't have an exact time and date and guest list, but I'm definitely still planning it. I'm still planning a stream where we talk about, like, is technology good or bad, right? Should we return to monkey, that idea? And inherently tied up in that idea is, I think, in my view, is partly, like, the question of, was the past good, right? Was the past good? Was the past bad? Are there things that were maybe better in the past that are worse now? I know that's not exactly the same question, but I feel like they're a lot more tied than some people give them credit for, right?
Contact. Swarm approaching the drill dozer.
Well, and I was talking to American Krogan the other day, and oh, okay, okay, he got that one. Actually, maybe that point's not entirely relevant. Oh, an oppressor, huh? Good job putting your little shield on the cart, or the thing. I mean, at the end of the day, even when you look at non-white groups and you look back at the 50s, it's like, okay, well, you know, back then, blacks had a higher rate of intact families than they do now. I mean, wasn't all bad for them either. I mean, even if you were to suggest that certain things were bad for them, I think there's arguments that in some ways it's better. Alright, get out of the way, you.
Excellent. Drop pod inbound.
I know back in like the 1930s and 40s, most blacks in the United States lived in intact families. As in like mom, dad, and the kids all living together in the house in a monogamous heterosexual marriage, right? but now it's not.
Drop pod has arrived. Retrieving
Right.
the mule.
So when someone says something like, oh, well, you know, the reason that they got such a low rate of intact homes is because of slavery, it's like, well, most slaves lived in intact families. Most of them lived in intact families decades after slavery. It can't be slavery causing this, to the degree that we see it today, because it was normal in and after slavery to have intact families. And I mean, it would sort of not make sense, you know, so obviously when slaves were taken, were purchased in Africa and brought around the world, right? When they came to the United States, there was a lot of Christian influence, and then there was this expectation that everybody, including slaves, should be fruitful and multiply because that's God's will, right? Well, the slaves who got purchased and brought over to Arabia and the Middle East, I mean, they were castrated and killed off, right? So wouldn't it be weird for the group who's so insistent that they should be fruitful and multiply undermine them by breaking up all their marriages? The fact that we talk about slaves having their marriages broken up, as far as I know, speaks less to the idea that that was super common, and it speaks more to the idea that white people find that idea very offensive, right? White people find the idea of breaking up a family, even a slave family, as highly offensive. Like, even theoretical people who are okay with slavery aren't okay with breaking up families during slavery, you know? So, to me, that narrative says more about us than it does about any sort of historical, like, any likelihood of historical events. You know what I'm saying? Life After Death says the 50s are a cool setting in video games, BioShock, Fallout, Zombie, Stubbs the Zombie, Mafia 2. Yeah. One of the things I'd like to make an analogy to is, do you know the narratives of a foreign noble? What do they call that? Oh gosh. Let me take a look here. Oh god, what's that thing? I have to Google this. And I know you can't see it. Right? Oh, prima nocta. You've heard of prima nocta, right? So prima nocta is this idea you've maybe seen in Braveheart, where like two Scottish people, a young Scottish man and a young Scottish woman, are getting married, and then this English noble comes to consecrate the marriage, and so he takes the bride for himself for the evening, right? The idea of prima nocta and the accusation of prima nocta has come up in Europe at least since the Roman times, right? To suggest that this group is engaging in that sort of behavior. And as far as I know, prima nocta never happened. But the reason it gets talked about is because it's so offensive to us, right? So you accuse someone of prima nocta as a way to create political support for an idea or a movement, or stir up bad feelings against someone, right? I think on some level the myths, the talking about breaking up slave families, which yes did happen to some degree, right? It is about that accusation. We know how people are going to feel. If you tell white people that black people's families are getting broken up, that slaves' families are getting broken up over slavery, they're going to find it really distasteful. And you might have to exaggerate how commonly it happens. Like, if it happens very seldomly, you might not say that it happens very seldomly. You might suggest that it's actually like a common thing and happens all the time. We're doing Hazard 3 for this one. And we're going quick.
Time to leave.
Mountains for my team and make it snappy.
Come on, guys, we're leaving.
Yeah.
Drop sequence initiating. Fasten your seatbelts.
In my
Piers said, did you miss an MS Paint segment? No MS Paint. I was just tabbed out trying to Google things.
beer.
MS Paint will probably be a Saturday thing mostly. Well, and yeah, I think I started your assignment. So where was it? Oh, everyone's seen that one.
This rock is gonna be the death of us.
I mean, and some people will hear me say that about pushing a narrative about about slaves being routinely subjected to family breakup when they probably weren't that much. And they'll say, well, so what, you want it to happen? Or do you support slavery? And it's like, well, no, but it is a recognition of the facts. In the same way we can recognize how manipulated things are with, like, the Ukrainian narratives and all that kind of stuff. We can see that manipulation, if people feel strongly about something, and if the thing is important, some people are going to be willing to stretch the truth to, you know, make sure that the correct side wins, so to speak. And you may have seen, like, I'm sure if you type in, like, slavery now or American slavery or something, you'll see that famous picture of the slave who's been whipped on his back, and he's sort of turned away from the camera, and you can see his scarred up back, right? Now, is what was done to him brutal? Cruel? Sure, yes. That being said, it also represents, likely, like we can all recognize... Oh god, there's a lot of stuff up here. It represents the abolitionists' attempt to find the worst picture they could to represent slavery, right? Like, it's very unlikely that he represents anything close to an average... oh god, I'm gonna die. Oh, I didn't die. An average slave experience. Because the abolitionists weren't out there trying to, like... Well, you know, they weren't nerds who were obsessed with the idea of accurately portraying slavery in every aspect. These were people who wanted to end slavery because they believed that not doing so would make you a bad person. And I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying that that was probably the worst picture they could find, and that's why they used it, right? That's what you would do, right? You wouldn't find an average picture of an average slave. You'd find the absolute worst picture you could, and that would, and then you might imply that that's the average experience, or you might not imply it. But when someone says it, you're not going to correct them, right? I mean, this is just how these things go. Oh my god, where is he? Oh, here he is. Get out of here. Well, maybe I won't do that right here. But I'm just curious to hear from you guys. Does that make sense? Does what I'm saying make sense? Or when you hear me say that, does it just sound like I'm going off the rails? because it's one of those situations where it's like,
Light is up.
it's actually so hard to talk about anything about this without someone just maybe either dishonestly or genuinely interpret you as being pro-slavery or something.
Heading to the mule. Impossible.
Well, so Gladius says, how the hell did the Anglos conquer the world if they were so soft? Well, I mean, softness has its own utility, right? When you are soft with the people around you, you can cooperate and coordinate a lot better, to some degree. And that's what you need to do if you want to conquer the world. You gotta... Because no one conquers the world alone. You always need you and a few million friends. Someone was asking me about EVE Online the other day. I haven't played EVE Online in a long time, but I do know that there is a saying online. So EVE Online, for anyone who doesn't know, is a game about internet spaceships, right? Internet spaceships. And people will ask, what's the best ship? You know, if I want to beat everyone else, if I want to do everything, what's the best ship? What ship should I fly? And the answer's pretty simple. They'll say that's the friendship. The friendship is the best ship. And it is. Right? I mean, if you can get 100 of your best friends to show up with you, it doesn't matter what ship you're in anymore. Because there's 100 of you. Or 101. And I'd say that has a lot to do with why America was successful initially, too. You know, so... the sort of... I don't know, for any of you guys who are interested in Kevin McDonald's book on Western individualism, if you're not, you should consider reading it. Because it does have some explanatory value on the situation. And that is that part of our success was our ability to put aside our differences and to cooperate, right? That's what we saw in the United States to some degree, right? Bunch of white people, maybe from different parts of Europe, put aside their differences and made, on some level, one of the most prosperous countries in the world. Now, when you take that sort of willingness to put your differences aside and you engage in it with people who aren't willing to put their differences aside, now we can see what's happening now. I don't know where I'm going exactly. I'm gonna go straight down for a second. Where the heck am I going? Okay, maybe right there? Here we go. But does that make sense to you guys? When you hear me say that, am I coming across clear? Like, our ability to set aside our differences and to just work together worked really well because each side was willing to do that to some degree. Not completely. I mean, you can go ahead and point out various historical examples of it not working or whatever. But, wow. But that is a strong thing that allows you to get a lot done. And that's not diversity is our strength. It's numbers are the strength, right? Like, that would be incorrectly understood as diversity is your strength, right? It would be mass overwhelming numbers of people cooperating can do things that smaller groups can't, right? But I understand why someone would misinterpret that as diversity is their strength.
Your tin ass over here and hurry, please. Getting closer to our quota. Eat it.
Because if you see all these different groups coming together and working and it working so well, you might actually attribute that to diversity rather than just like smaller groups coming together and one big group can accomplish more than the smaller groups, which again doesn't have to do with diversity. It's literally just a numbers game.
That's all you
I wonder if maybe once I get rid of these things.
Swarm detected. Get ready. They'll be with you shortly.
Pika says that Chinese are the strongest in the world, which I think he's suggesting based off of me and saying the numbers game, right? Well, obviously, they are becoming quite strong, right? Like, I think that's to some degree true, but the other part of it is the degree to which cooperation happens, right? So, like, if we could say, like, China has the numbers, now can they cooperate? If they can cooperate effectively enough, then yeah, they will be the strongest, won't they? I mean, if 1.4 billion people are really trying their all, and they want to come, I don't know, beat you up or something, aren't they gonna win? Aren't they going to be able to do it? I mean, when the United States went to the moon, right, we had support from other countries, particularly in Europe. But between the United States and Europe, there wasn't 1 billion people. And that got us to the moon. So if you have 1.4 billion people, and you can significantly cooperate, you might be able to accomplish a lot. Oh, there's the other battery
Hang
pack.
in there. The wave is almost dealt with. Dispatch whatever's left.
Oh. So Pika's saying the Han Chinese, right? Yeah. I mean, they're mostly Han, but not all Han. Oh, that I'm out of ammo on that now. But you know, even if they're not all one ethnic group, I mean, it's just a matter of cooperation. It's certainly easier to get people to cooperate when they're more similar, like within the same ethne. It's not a prerequisite, and it depends on the relative individualism and the willingness to cooperate between those groups, which can have historical facts to it, but also can just be like, how different are those groups genetically? So Mr. Gladius said, Romans absorbed what they found useful of other people to become stronger, but poisoned themselves, while America became stronger, putting their differences aside, but that exposed them to future poison. Mr. Gladius continues, and then there are the Italian city-states, with each maintaining a bulletproof identity, but being divided made them vulnerable to foreign invasion and infighting. Well, exactly. I mean, everything's a trade-off, for sure.
All eggs collected. Management will be pleased. Escape pod button is activated.
Pause it here. We gotta crack that thing.
Access provided.
Alright, how are we doing on Nitra? We're doing alright.
Where is that? Be ready for anything.
Well, a tritiolite deposit. We're sending in a nanite bomb dispenser for your team. If those things can't penetrate it, nothing will.
Sentry on.
Where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay, should be able to just grab one piece at a time. Right over to here. Yeah, easy. Even if these guys don't know what they're doing, I should be able to do this solo. I mean, they can just fight bugs while I do this. That's fine. And... oh, I missed. Okay, we're good. We got it.
Good job, team.
Pika, good
Core
night.
fuser
I'm
ready.
ending the stream after this anyway.
Core and
So,
fuser activated. Point fleet.
Gladius says, I know it is pointless talking about all of this at this point in history, but I find it fascinating to ponder which system is the best. Oh yeah. I mean, it's not a bad thing to ponder. I mean, we can't necessarily do what we'd like to do if we came to some if you came to some excellent conclusion and you found like the best system for humans.
My core flutes.
Probably still couldn't do much with that info, but
Stand back. Supply pod inbound.
of all the things to spend some of your time, some of your free time thinking about, it's not the worst.
Resupply is here. Getting supply. It burns. It burns. Never felt better.
Good work. Sending in the drop pod.
Kill some more crates.
Wonder if I can teach you something.
Alright, we're heading out.
Ouch. Ouch. Ouch.
I mean, the only reason I don't talk about that stuff more, you know, I made that video kind of a long time ago now.
Returning to
I said,
LZ.
like, race is pre-political.
Drop pod
It's the title of the video.
T-minus 5 minutes.
I mean, that's the only reason I don't talk more about politics and stuff. It's because, at the end of the day, I think there's bigger issues, more important issues, issues that, if you ignore them, are going to really bite you in the butt before you get to any of the politics, right? Like, if your city gets destroyed by a race riot, then it won't matter what you have set up in terms of, you know, public transport policy, you know, and all that stuff. You know, it's like, does it matter what the rules around alcohol consumption or zoning laws or any sort of political issue you want to think about? Will that matter if your way of life is destroyed in a race riot?
Drop pod departing in T-minus 4 minutes.
Alright, get in.
The mule has docked. Initiating launch sequence. Extraction
You guys are
commencing.
troublemakers.
Rockin' stones.
For rock and stone!
I'm thinking maybe next Saturday I'll play some SimCity or something. I think there could be some fun things to talk about with that. Speaking of politics and social policy and all sorts of other things. I need a Race Riot expansion pack for SimCity, please. Thank you. Can I get the George Floyd expansion pack? Oh my god, these... Did you guys see the Trayvon Martin DLC? The Ferguson skins? Alright, well. That's it for Sunday. I hope you guys have a good weekend. I'll see you on Wednesday if you want to show up for the stream of Deus Ex Human Revolution. We'll be playing that 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Looking at some of the ideas presented in the game, we've started to see in the game a little bit more of the sort of ideas and narrative around transhumanism. I mean, it took a long time before they started really giving that to us more. But yeah. Otherwise, have a good weekend. Peace out, everybody.